RHESUS factor. RHESUS factor. Approximately 85% of the population in the world of people that have done blood grouping are considered to be RHESUS positive, and about 15% of the same population is considered to be RHESUS negative. Now, this means there is a higher possibility of having intermarriages of people who are RHESUS positive with those that are RHESUS negative. When this happens, there are chances of RHESUS negative mothers carrying fetuses or babies who are RHESUS positive. Now, this poses a danger of mothers losing their second and third, fourth, and any other pregnancy that may come after that due to things that we are going to learn today. My name is Chimboa Richard, and I welcome you for this Monday episode on women and their health, where we are going to dive in to understand more about RHESUS factor and why it is important for couples in their preconception screening or health care to know their blood grouping and their RHESUS status. If you're here and you've not subscribed, I kindly ask you to subscribe. But also, if you're here and you missed last week's episode, I kindly ask you to pause here and go and watch that episode. Let us start by understanding what is RHESUS factor. Now, RHESUS factor, or a RHESUS antigen, is just a protein, a normal protein that is found on the surface of red blood cells, and it is a normal part of the blood group system. So it is not a disease, it's not anything. When someone has that protein on their red blood cells, that person is considered to be RHESUS positive because they have that protein. And when someone does not have that RHESUS antigen on their red blood surface, that person is considered to be RHESUS negative. So in the world, you're either RHESUS positive if you have that protein, or RHESUS negative. So how do we get this RHESUS status? If a RHESUS positive mother marries a RHESUS positive father, their children are going to be RHESUS positive. However, if a RHESUS negative mother marries a RHESUS positive father, their children can either be RHESUS positive or RHESUS negative. And the other way, if a RHESUS negative mother marries a RHESUS negative father, their children are going to be RHESUS negative. And so, there is no problem if a RHESUS positive mother marries a RHESUS positive father and the children are RHESUS positive. However, there is a problem if a RHESUS negative mother marries a RHESUS positive father, because their children are either going to be RHESUS positive or RHESUS negative. Now, why is this a problem when we have an intermarriage of a RHESUS negative mother and a RHESUS positive father? How do we know our RHESUS factor? We get to know our RHESUS factor when we do blood checkup for blood grouping. When you go for blood grouping, they always tell you you're O positive or you're O negative, you're A positive or you're A negative, you're AB positive or you're AB negative. Now, that positive or negative they always put on your blood grouping result indicates your RHESUS factor. The reason why we are concerned when a mother is RHESUS negative is that they may get married to a father or a man that is rhesus positive, and now this brings about chances of one of their fetuses carrying a rhesus positive status on them, and this can lead to issues called rhesus factor incompatibility, something that is very dangerous and something that we are going to understand today. If a rhesus positive baby, if the baby gets the positive rhesus factor from the father, and this rhesus positive fetus is in a rhesus negative body, the mother, there is a chance, actually not a chance, but we are going to have what we call rhesus incompatibility that may lead to physiological issues that we are going to understand now in the next 1 minute. Why is it now more important for us to understand our rhesus status as a couple before actually we have a child? It's because we want to see if the mother is rhesus negative. And actually, by standard, all rhesus negative mothers, if you are led and you're rhesus negative, it is a must that you must check the rhesus status of your husband to know if he's rhesus positive. That means that there must be, your health providers must know before you become pregnant, such that they prepare if there are any chances of rhesus factor incompatibility. They prepare on how they are going to help you and your fetus, such that the rhesus factor incompatibility do not affect the baby, like we are going to know. During the fetal life of this fetus in the mother's womb, there is some blood exchange that happens. When the immune system of the mother's blood that is having a negative rhesus factor recognizes the blood of this fetus that is having a positive charge, something called rhesus incompatibility steps in. At first, in the first pregnancy, the mother's immune system does not react in a bad way because it is trying to study the new antigen that has been sensed. So most of the time, the mother is going to safely have this baby, or the baby is going to be produced up to term. And so in most of the cases where the mother is negative and the father is positive, they always have a firstborn without any problem. But then, when they try to get the second baby or the second pregnancy, because in immune system there are what we call memory cells. Each time you have a different antigen in your body, the memory cells of your immune system keep a copy of that, and either it will keep it as a friendly antigen or a foreign antigen, which it will interpret as an enemy or a pathogen or a disease. Now, when it gets exposed to the same antigen again, the mother's blood system now will attack that antigen. So when you become pregnant again and the mother's immune system recognizes the positive rhesus factor or the blood from the positive rhesus fetus, it will now order its antibodies to attack the blood system of that fetus, because it is perceiving or it is interpreting this rhesus factor to be something bad to its body. Now, this leads to a complication we call hemolytic disease of the newborn, HDFN. And what is this hemolytic disease of the newborn? What is HDFN, or what is known as hemolytic disease of the newborn? This is a condition where the red blood cells of the fetus are destroyed by the antibodies produced by the mother's immune system. Now, this leads to fetal anemia, or in simple terms, this means the unborn baby who is still inside the mother's womb becomes anemic, because all the red blood cells in the fetus that are supposed to move nutrients and oxygen have been attacked by the mother's antibodies produced by the mother's immune system. Why? Because the mother's blood is rhesus negative and the fetal blood is rhesus positive. So the mother's blood thinks that the rhesus positive blood from the baby is a problem, is a disease that needs to be fought off, because our bodies are made with a natural immunity that can fight off some diseases. And that's how immunization, actually, that's how vaccination or immunization works. Introduce that small vaccine, for example, measles. They introduce the small dose of measles in your body. So it triggers, it is kept in the memory cells of your body. And the body uses that, studies that small dose that you're given, keeps it in its memory cells. So when you get exposed to measles in your life again, the body uses its memory cell to recognize it, and then it produces antibodies that attack all the measles that you exposed to that time. And that's how now your body is generally protected from the adverse effects of measles that time, because at immunization your body was given a small dose. Now in this case of rhesus factor, when you become pregnant for the first time, the mother's body keeps a record of that rhesus positive blood and studies it. Now when you get pregnant again the second time, the mother's body now multiplies and attacks anything positive in its body. And that's how now the fetus ends up being destroyed, because all the blood cells, red blood cells, are destroyed. Now,
Katerega Edward is a dedicated father, husband, and entrepreneur who is passionately committed to enhancing home care and advocating for men's mental wellness in Uganda. He is the founder and current managing director at RHESUS Services Limited. This company was born in July 2009 after the director lost his elderly father to a long-term illness. Nursing his father, coupled with part-time elderly care work experience while studying for his degree in the United Kingdom, brought this idea to life. On 15th October 2021, RHESUS Services was born and incorporated with limited liability in Uganda. RHESUS Services Limited is a non-medical care and wellness agency that seeks to assist with the challenges of looking after an elderly or sick family member. Caregiving is the activity or profession of regularly looking after a child or a sick, elderly, or disabled person. At one point in each and everyone's life, we will have or have provided care, whether for a young child, spouse, and sick relative, or elderly parent. Our purpose is to help the elderly live longer, improved, happier lives. At RHESUS Services Limited, we do this by providing care for them in their own home. Studies show that overwhelmingly, the elderly fear loss of independence more than dying, and providing care for them while they remain in their own homes allows them to maintain their independence. We provide the following services: non-medical and medical nursing care for elderly and sick adults in their own homes, personal care and bedside assistance while in hospital, personal care assistance after discharge from hospital, personal care assistance to terminally ill, granny sitting services while you're at work or away on holiday. We will look after your loved one and keep them company, escort to a hospital appointment, postnatal care to new mothers and babies. We provide consultation on the following: physiotherapy, stroke exercise, nutrition, personal care, stroke hygiene, mental well-being, family support, medication management. Suppliers of elderly care accessories and equipment. RHESUS Services Limited aims to source the best accessories and equipment to enable carers maintain a high standard of care for your loved one. We stock personal care products such as incontinence pads, steady walking canes, blood pressure monitors, birth safety grab rails, steps, and bus mats. RHESUS Services Limited provides wellness coaching. This is a new way of empowering people to become masters of their mental well-being. This will involve learning how to apply skills taught through our coaching into your relationships, marriage, work, etc.
So in this case, check to see if two people are having rhesus factor compatibility before any transfusion is done. And this is simply done in the lab, and before any transfusion is done anywhere in the world, they make sure there is that rhesus factor compatibility. So how does incompatibility of a mother and the father affect the baby? Now, the firstborn of these incompatible couples, for example, mother negative and father positive, the firstborn is not affected. And so most of the time, we are going to have self-delivery of the firstborn. Like I explained before. Why? Because even the mother is negative, but the fetus is positive. But the mother, throughout the 9 months, the mother's body is trying to understand. Normal, our immune system is that the first exposure you're exposed to a disease, the body does not produce any antibodies. Our bodies are so careful. They don't want to attack someone that is friendly. Just like if you're a country and you see people entering your territories, you don't attack them first. You study them. You understand. And so that's how our bodies react. When you first get this, on your first pregnancy, the mother's body is trying to study this rhesus positive thing that has been introduced in its body, so it does not do any harm on it. So there is safe delivery of that body. But on any other pregnancy, second pregnancy, third, if it happens that this pregnancy is rhesus positive, which happens in most cases because they pick the rhesus positive from the father, the mother's body now uses the information it kept from the first pregnancy, because when you give birth in the first pregnancy, the mother's body keeps a copy of the rhesus information in its memory cells in the immune system. Now when you get pregnant again, the mother's immune system now attacks the red blood cells of this fetus and destroys them in a process that a process which we call rhesus factor incompatibility, or HDFN, which is called hemolytic disease of the newborn. And when it destroys them, it means the fetal blood does not have red blood cells, and we know the function of red blood cells. Red blood cells carry oxygen, they carry nutrients from the mother to the fetus. Now, if these are destroyed, it means that the fetus is destroyed, or the fetus is not going to receive the nutrients it needs for its normal growth. So eventually it stops growing, and most of the time we have what we call IUFD, intrauterine fetal death, and then we are going to have a miscarriage before term, most likely before 28 weeks. So that is what happens. So you lose your second pregnancy, third pregnancy. I've seen someone that lost up to about 11 pregnancies. It is rhesus factor incompatibility. Again, caution, if before getting pregnant, make sure when you do your blood checks or blood grouping, they tell you if both of you are compatible in terms of rhesus factor. And again, if you're a lady and you are rhesus negative, make sure you check your husband, because if it's rhesus positive and you're negative, you need to inform your doctors, your nurses, because there is a solution to that, like we are going to see. There is something they are going to do to you to make sure, to do for you, to make sure you don't lose your subsequent pregnant or pregnancies that will come after your first pregnancy. Because if you don't do that, trust me, you're going to keep losing your pregnancies before term that are going to come after the first baby. Good news. So what happens if a lady is rhesus negative? What happens if you're rhesus negative and your husband is rhesus positive? Good news is, if that is detected in time, it can be stopped. What happens? There is a miracle injection called anti-D. Anti-D. So what we do, when we realize that a mother is rhesus negative and the father is rhesus positive, and you become pregnant and you have a fetus in you, in some developed countries, they will check the fetus to see if the fetus is rhesus negative or positive. But in most of the cases, the fetus is going to be rhesus positive because they pick the positive from the father. So what we do, we inject the mother with this injection called anti-D at week 28 of pregnancy. That's now what I say, that's the importance of checking before you become pregnant. Because if you don't check, you're not going to know. And again, to our dear men, this is where the practice of escorting your ladies for antenatal comes in. Because most of the time, these ladies go for antenatal checks and they check their blood grouping because they need to prepare them for delivery in case they will need blood. So normally on the antenatal card, there is that blood grouping, O positive, A positive. But the gentlemen, because because most of the time we don't escort our ladies for their antenatal, they don't get to know our RHESUS status of positive or negative. Now that means the doctors cannot predict if there is a chance that we could be having RHESUS incompatibility. But if we escort them and they check the mother and the mother is RHESUS negative, the next thing is to check their husband. But because men, we don't want to help our ladies in this process, we put them in a dilemma. So we put both the mother and the child in a dilemma. And when this lady keeps losing pregnancies, most men are quick to, men and your families, your side, you're quick to judge this lady. Hey, this woman has traditional problem. Or sometimes even you move out, you get another woman and you produce and you start saying, hey, the problem was with her. No, you moved out and you got a lady who you're compatible with in terms of RHESUS factor. This lady you left her behind does not have a problem. It's simply you didn't support them, because if you went and they realize if she's negative and for you you're positive, they are going to give her an injection that is going to save the babies. But if you don't escort her, there is no way they are going to understand your RHESUS factor. So I urge all men to always, at least once in the pregnancies, to escort your ladies such that your record of RHESUS positive or negative is kept for further usage. So this anti-D injection is given to a lady at 28 weeks during their first pregnancy, but also immediately in 72 hours after birth. Why? How this anti-D injection works is that when it is given to a lady, it's normally given intramuscularly, or they inject a lady in any muscle, normally on the hand here. What it does, how it works, is that it erases the memory of the RHESUS positive from the mother's immune system. Is that clear? So how it works is that when they give you this anti-D injection, it will clear all the memory. You remember we talked about the memory cells keeping a memory of the RHESUS positive information in the mother's blood. So when we give you this anti-D injection, it clears that memory. So the mother's blood does not remember anything about the RHESUS positive that it was exposed to. So that means even the second pregnancy, when you become pregnant again, the mother treats it like it is the first time it is being exposed to the RHESUS positive. So it does not react. So that baby, also the second born is born, is like the second fetus is also born, or the second pregnancy is born well. So also still, in the second pregnancy at week 28, we inject again, and also after 72 hours. So the rule is that if a mother is RHESUS negative, each time they are pregnant, we inject her with anti-D at 28 weeks, also after birth at 72 hours. And the reasoning behind is what I've explained. The anti-D clears the mother's memory cells. It clears any information related to RHESUS factor, such that each time you become pregnant again, the mother's memory cell do not remember anything about RHESUS positive that it was exposed to previously. And so that's how this mother keep having all the number of children they want to have. So in conclusion, you're either RHESUS positive or RHESUS negative. Number two, all women that are RHESUS negative must check the RHESUS factor of their husbands before becoming pregnant. Number three, if you're RHESUS negative mother, you must receive an anti-D injection at week 28 and within 72 hours after giving birth. Now this goes back. If you're a rhesus negative mother, it means you must have proper antenatal, such that they don't skip the 28th week, but also you must make sure you give birth in a place that has, in a medical center, such that you're able to receive the anti-D injection within 72 hours. Because if you give birth at home, you may fail to receive this. And if you don't get this anti-D in the recommended time and you're a rhesus negative mother, it means you're going to have issues having pregnancy again, because your blood system is going to keep destroying any fetus that will enter your body that is rhesus positive. I think I've answered the rhesus factor question that was asked to me in the comment section by one of the young ladies in Dubai. I want to thank you for watching up to this time, and I hope I've done justice to rhesus issue. If you have any problem or any question related on the same, please leave it in the comment section and I will be happy and glad to respond to it. Thank you so much and have a beautiful Monday. May God bless you. Remember to share this information with all the young couples, because these are things that that keep this disturbing them. In my experience, I've seen so many women that have lost their babies simply because of the rhesus factor, or simply because no one has ever given them information on rhesus factor compatibility and incompatibility. Thank you so much and have a blessed week.